friends, and welcome to another WSIB Truth Matters with Joe Machado on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. I hope you're enjoying this weather. Anyway, I'm back with another video. Today I was actually going to talk about an entirely different subject. It concerns a recent ruling by an Ontario judge in a matter that was launched by the Ontario Network of Injured Worker Groups, dealing with the indexing factor and how the WSIB has always minimized how much they're going to pay. If you're not familiar with it, the indexing factor is applied each year in January based on some figures, the Consumer Price Index, and then that's used to apply an increase to certain types of benefits being received by individuals on WSIB. So it is an important issue, but I had a lot of requests to talk about a different issue, which is the matter of work reintegration. And it is an important issue, and I did have the outline for a video in this particular subject to do later on. However, based on a number of requests, I'm going to do it now. And I believe it's a very important subject. The whole matter of work reintegration, or labor market reentry services, as some of you have come to know it, vocational rehabilitation services for those who were injured before 1990 and in the early 90s. So there's been a lot of different names applied, a lot of changes over the years. And I know that for some of you who are going through the process right now, or you're about to go through it, this information can be very helpful. So that's why I prioritized bringing it to the channel today. So anyway, I'm going to get right into it. I'm going to put up this beautiful brochure that the WSIB put together to talk about their new and improved features about their work reintegration programs. And kind of like as if you're buying a new car, and it's got all of these, new features to go along with it, because the old model needed improvements. Maybe that's the case. But if there are improvements, that's great. But if the new model is just dressed up in a different color, but it pretty much is the same as the old one, you need to be able to pay attention to that and know how to react to it. So here we go. I'm going to put up this brochure. I'll give you a few seconds to kind of go through it. You can go on the WSIB website and, look at it all day. It'll be there. Okay, so now that you've had a look at that, I broke it into the 3 sections. And so the first one is their vision, goal, and principles. So I'm going to put that section up on the screen. I'm going to go through it. So their vision, reintegration into decent, safe, and sustainable employment. Well, that's always been the case. At least it should have. And whether it was in the 80s, 90s, or the early 2000s or now, that has always been what was expected of injured workers, to be reintegrated into decent, safe, and sustainable employment. Something comparable to what they were doing when they were injured. What's the goal? Employment, of course, obvious. But this one here, the principles, let's talk about these, because I find that organizations put these things out there to make everything look pretty and smell nice and all that, but do they actually stick with it? So the first one, to maintain the employment relationship wherever possible between the worker and the injury employer, with all parties having a shared obligation. Of course. I believe that injured workers want that, and I believe that most employers, that's what they want. It costs a lot of money to retrain new workers. Employers know that. So to retain a qualified, experienced worker, absolutely. It's a no-brainer. And do employers or employees feel that commitment, that shared commitment to go back to their injury employer and do the best they can to remain there? Yeah, absolutely. It's a good principle to have. The question is, does it evolve into that? And I'll touch on that. Number 2, reintegrate workers into decent, safe, and sustainable work, maintaining the dignity of the worker. Yeah. They're putting it in this new brochure here as if it's something new that they're starting. But really, they should have had this all along. Maintaining the dignity of injured workers is just morally right. It's the right thing to do. And that's why the WSIB is in business, to provide support, assistance for an injured or ill worker and their families in the time of need, to help them either reintegrate back into their injury employment or another career, to do it in a dignified manner, not threatening and bullying, but to do it with a common goal, that it's an actual principle that everybody's committed to live by, not just a bunch of pretty words on a piece of paper. And safe and sustainable. Trying to push an injured worker back to work in a job that is not safe, or at least not safe for their injury because there's a risk of re-injury or deterioration, especially if their doctors are saying that. I don't think it's living up to that principle. But anyway, I'll give you the benefit of doubt. Provide effective and meaningful input and choice on the part of the worker. I've had thousands of clients go through this process and hear nothing but, well, you know, this is what you got to do because that's all there's available. We really can't do that much more because of your skills or level of education. And yes, you're telling us what you can or can't do and what you'd like to do, but you know, that's just not going to work. I hate to be cynical, but I've been around this for a very long time. So I'm not going to candy coat it for those of you who are watching this and are about to go through this process. I'm going to give it to you straight because things don't change overnight, and I haven't seen that happening for a long time. Number 4, to maintain high standards for services provided by WSIB staff and contracted parties to ensure effective quality services that achieve desired employment outcomes. Well, okay. The WSIB in the 80s and early 90s was managing work reintegration in-house through its Vocational Rehabilitation Services Department. And I think that was one of the best programs that the WSIB had because it was actually working, where you had caseworkers meeting with the worker, employers, there was dialogue, there was, I believe, a genuine, for the better part, because there was a lot of crap too, but for the better part, a genuine interest in making sure that all parties were happy moving forward and felt like they were being heard. I haven't seen that in a long time. The WSIB decided to go with this whole service provider thing and do away with the Vocational Rehabilitation Department. And I was around when that happened, and I had discussions with managers and directors and VPs, and I thought it was patently wrong because it took it out of the WSIB's control and gave it to all of these service providers, external service providers, who basically their job was to provide programs that the board could say yes to so that they could continue to get referrals and stay in business. I don't think that it served the injured workers or employers or the WSIB well. Now they seem to be going back to bringing that in-house. Let's see. Because so far I don't see how that's been a big change either. To manage the cost of the program, yeah. I've seen the WSIB manage costs really well, where they'll send somebody for retraining and it'll fall short of what they need because the WSIB limited what type of training they'd get. Were they competitively employable afterwards? I had a lot of clients that went through it and couldn't find work. And if the WSIB had gone just a little bit more with that budget, perhaps that would have made a difference. So manage the cost of the program. I think that's a good thing. As long as you're not penny pinching and you're falling short of actually providing the person with the training and the skills to become competitively employable, to go in the job market and compete with others who are competing for those jobs, those same jobs, who have the experience, who've been in that type of work, who have a resume and references that they've actually done that type of job. It's much harder for somebody who's starting fresh. So if you're going to manage the costs, make sure that you give the injured worker or the ill worker every single benefit to make them competitively employable. Otherwise, you failed them. And here's one that I always look at and I shake my head. Ensure workers are fairly compensated for wage loss, recognizing the difference between the pre-injury earnings and post-injury earnings ability. So if you provide the injured worker with the retraining, job search assistance, and everything to equip that injured worker to go out and find a job in a competitive labor market, and they're not able to find work, even though they've done everything they could, everything humanly possible, because they have a stronger vested interest in finding employment than the WSIB does. Because the father wants to go to work to earn money to go home and feed his family. So if that person's not able to find a job despite everything, don't deem what his earnings are or what his earnings capacity is. Be truthful. Be realistic. If that person hasn't found a job, despite all the efforts, it's not a failure on the WSIB's part or the worker's part, but it is a failure if you don't properly compensate the worker for their loss, which is 100%. If they don't find work. So I'm going to put up the next one. New and improved features for injured workers and employers. I can only hear a lot of employers chuckling on this one and other representatives, or those of you who are watching and have already gone through the system. New and improved features. Early intervention and return to work and work transition. Yes, I think that's a great thing as long as you're not pushing a worker to go back to work when his doctor's saying that it's premature. Then that doesn't work. And it happens all the time. Retraining to remain with injury employer. I think it's great. That's a far gone conclusion. Every worker will tell you that, and every employer will tell you that's the best possible outcome. So it's not new and improved. It's always been there. Active engagement of injury employer. That too has always been there. Did you all always listen to injury employers? for injured workers? No. So maybe it should be active listening to injury employer. Active listening to injured worker. Active listening to injured workers' medical doctors who are providing recommendations. That should be on there. Accommodation requirements, come on, it's old news. Always been there. Penalties for a worker and employer non-cooperation. Oh boy, have I seen this one happen over and over and over. If you don't participate, we're going to cut you off. You're going to be deemed uncooperative. Yeah, those are penalties for worker and employer non-cooperation. They know that. Nothing's changed. You're just regurgitating the same old garbage that's always been there. Do what we want, or penalties. More pathways for workers? I don't know what they mean by that. There have always been plenty of pathways. If you can't return to your injury employer, assess vocational characteristics through a psychovocational assessment. It's always been there. These are great tools, but only if you actually follow through with those recommendations. If the recommendations are that the person could actually benefit from retraining to become competitively employed, provided, funded properly, don't threaten and push the injured worker. If the worker's having challenges, maybe needs some tutor support or whatever, provide it. Provide adequate job search, not just 30 days. Exhaust all efforts. So I don't know how you're providing more pathways, but if you're not doing these things that I just talked about that have been done for over 3 decades, I don't know what else you're talking about. But maybe more pathways would be that if the worker isn't successful despite all of this, and it's not a failure of the worker or the WSIB or the employer, then do what the Workplace Safety and Insurance Act states to make sure that the worker is remunerated for losses resulting from the injury, in which case those losses are 100%. Worker choice? Okay, I don't know. I'm just going to go through that one. I have no idea what that is because I know what worker choices are, but I'm not sure what that means. Program time limits? Yeah, I think program time limits are good, providing the plan is comprehensive to accomplish the goal of returning the worker to gainful, meaningful, and safe employment. Recognition that part-time employment may be the best option? Yeah. Many doctors over the years have stated that given the worker's functionality or functional limits resulting from the injury, that part-time work, where during the times where the worker is actually able to work, would be more appropriate. Again, I've had thousands of clients go through the system, and many of them where the doctor said, no, you should only just work part-time because that's what your limitations are. And the WSIB said, no, you're not cooperating. These are self-imposed limitations, and sorry, we're going to do your FEL or LOE and based on the fact that you could work full-time as a fully experienced worker in this job that we pulled out of the sky. Sorry if I'm being cynical, but I'm just being realistic based on all of my 30 plus years of experience and having handled thousands of files. So recognition that part-time employment may be the best option and actually paying the worker properly? Yes. Yes, you definitely need to do that. You need to stick with that you just stated, WSIB. Relocation assistance, that's always been there. And employment placement and retention support services. Yeah, that's always been there as well. It's nothing new. It really isn't. Okay, so, but I just wanted to go through that, and then I'm going to put up the last one, which is the work reintegration roles. The case manager. Set return to work and recovery goals and make appropriate decisions based upon legislation, policy, and good practices. They're already doing that. Basically, they do whatever the hell they want and ignore the worker and policies and legislation and push the workers into doing something that they can't, in my experience. And I have many, many cases that I could provide as examples. So, doesn't seem like that much has changed in that role. The return to work specialist, coordinate return to work by facilitating the return to work process, educating the workplace parties on principles, best practices, benefits of return to work and services available, the employers and workers' rights and obligations, and available resources. That's always been there. It's just good common sense. Tell everybody what they're supposed to do, what the law is, and stick with it. Lead by example. And the last one, work transition specialist. There's a lot of specialists involved in this whole process. Provide expert advice, vocational rehabilitation planning, and support workers and employers to coordinate work reintegration, which may include accommodation and transition to a different job if necessary. Again, it's always been there. All they need to do is just follow their own damn verbiage that seems to be regurgitated every 10 years or so. So friends, there you have it. That's the reality that we live with. The only thing that I can do is offer tools that have been tested, that have worked, to help you protect yourself in the event that these people don't follow through with these things. And believe me, my gut tells me, and over 30 years of experience tells me, they're going to fail miserably again. And this is just a very nice, colorful way of saying, hey, look, we got all of this pretty new stuff. Let's have a look. For people that have been around, they don't believe in any of that. Believing is supporting things, following through with action. So, how do you protect yourself? We have a great tool that I developed for WSIBsettlements.com. I'm going to put the address on the screen here, and it's called the e-tracker. It's easy, it's simple, anybody can do it regardless of your education, your skill with computers or it's the easiest thing to do. And what it does, it's a good tool to help you keep track of everything you do with these people with respect to everything in your file, but more so with work reintegration. Every document, every meeting that you've had, you can upload documents, you can make notes. It prompts you to you basically just go to through a short questionnaire. You fill in the information, you click submit. There's a record that's kept in our server, which is safe and secure. You get a copy, and anytime that you have a meeting or down the road, if they're not following through with what they've promised and they're trying to put the screws to you, you have all that information there to support you. And believe me, if you have to go to an appeal, that is going to come in very, very helpful because it's a timely record of everything that's happened. And when the WSIB is trying to portray you as being uncooperative and not following through with your responsibilities and obligations, you're going to have that record to demonstrate that you were and that you did everything in your power to cooperate, to be successful in the program. And that will help me. That will help you, my friends. I promise you. Because I did this with my company. Everyone in my staff did that. It was basically religiously. We took notes about everything to make sure that the client was covered. It's an easy tool. You don't have to worry about a pad and paper or speaking into a recorder. None of that. You just go on our app. It's right there. You click the button. You fill in the information. It takes you less than 5 minutes. And whether it was a meeting or a phone call or a discussion, whatever the case may be, it's documented and it's easy for you to retrieve when you need it. The only thing I can do, my friends, is to give you the tools to protect yourself. Always. I'm always going to do that for you. And all of this crap that these people come up with, they're only going to get my blessing when they actually put it out there and they start doing it. Until then, it's not going to happen. So I'm happy that I was able to follow through with the requests. And if any of you have any questions specifically about this matter, by all means, send me an email, joemachado@wsibsettlements.com, and I will clarify things for you. All right? And once again, friends, thank you for taking the time to listen. As you know, I'm building this channel. I'm doing it so that I can support injured workers, every injured worker in this province, past and present, to give tools, to support, to talk about issues that matter, to give you my experiences of over 30 years in this industry and having built the largest paralegal firm. If it's happening, I've done that. And I want to be able to put it out there for you. So thank you for those of you who are subscribers. That means a lot. I'm on my way to 100, which is awesome. I never thought that was going to be possible in a short period of time. I've had an opportunity to connect with a lot of people and help a lot of people in the last 3 months. I'm enjoying it. And so please share my videos with others. And if you're not yet a subscriber, just click the button, be a subscriber. It costs you nothing. Nobody's going to be coming looking for money, but you get notified every time that I post a new video. And I'm going to continue to post videos. I got 2, 5, 10 years worth of information to put out there to help you succeed in your claim. All right, friends. Once again, thank you for taking the time to listen, and have an amazing evening. Take care now.